it's interesting, isn't it, how our minds think something's going to happen, or think something is a certain way, and we reify that idea, and then when it isn't that way, we kind of freak out. I'm sure you didn't have really bad fits or sobbing because I wasn't here, but I hope not anyway. My point is how we have certain expectations, and then our lives are in the nature of change, and when change happens, unless it was change that we want and we initiate, all other change is seen as kind of bad, and how could that happen, and it can't be like this. So it's kind of, life is what it is, and we will meet these kind of circumstances a lot. Yeah. So our ability to be flexible and to adjust to new circumstances, like Venerable Tarpa did in a split second, finding out she was going to lead this session, to be able to do that makes our mind quite spacious, because we don't have to play catch up with, well, I expected this and it's not happening, and now I have to reorient my whole mind, Or what we often do when things change is we just say, no, it can't be like this. No, I refuse. And reality always wins. So we can get upset at reality, or we can go along with it. And it's our choice. So one person said that we are called to turn our attention inwards towards our mind rather than our usual habit of focusing on outer sense objects. With the breath as the object, I find my mind settled and focused inward towards my awareness. It feels like coming home. With the image of the Buddha at a distance away, not too far, he's not across the room, I feel focused out there, separate from my inner world, though my mental consciousness is at work. This feels counterintuitive to our instruction to focus inward. What is the proper way to think about the Buddha image as the object of concentration, and how does this relate to turning our attention inward when focusing on an outer mental image? So here, this person has certain definitions of inside and outside that not everybody will share, okay? When the Buddha is talking about turning our attention inside, it's to not be captivated by all the sense objects in the world, okay? Looking here and there and window shopping and checking out someone's house and looking at all the people around you and all of that, to draw the attention away from seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, okay? The image of the Buddha is an inner object, yeah? This person is seeing it as an outer object. It's actually an inner object. It's being created by the mind. And just because you're imagining the Buddha a few feet in front of you doesn't mean that it's outer, okay? It's still inner. Yeah. Having said that, some people do prefer the breathing meditation and find it easier. Other people prefer meditating on the image of the Buddha, okay? Sometimes if you start out with the breath and you've done that for a long time, then if somebody suggests visualizing the Buddha, that feels new and foreign. But if you do it for a while, it comes to feel as natural as with your breath. So it will vary person by person according to what is the object that you use for your serenity meditation. Okay, but like I said, working with the image of the Buddha has particular benefits that other objects don't have, because it really establishes a relationship between us and the Buddha in our mind. And somebody else says, during the motivation part of the meditation on the Buddha, following the visualization to transform all sentient beings into Buddhas and all environments into Pure Lands. So you got everything perfect, yeah? And the Buddha dissolves into you, you radiate light, you radiate light, or the Buddha radiates light. There's different ways to do it. And everybody becomes a Buddha, the environment becomes a Pure Land. And then, okay, we ask ourselves, why hasn't this become a reality? And think about the reasons: prejudice, lacking love, compassion, etc. At that point, having spent the time building up my motivation, I often feel some disappointment and lose some of my motivation. Anybody else have this? Yeah? It's like, wait, I already enlightened everybody. Yeah, what's the story? They aren't really enlightened? I have to do it all over again? So I've noticed this happen when I do this practice, and I found myself skipping straight from meditating on emptiness to the four immeasurables. Okay, so how do we think about this happening? So I remember too, oh, it's so beautiful, everybody's Buddha, everything's a Pure Land. And then you say, it hasn't really happened. It's like such a letdown. Okay, and then it's like, now I gotta do something, I gotta enlighten them all over again. Yeah, and so here we see a little bit of our attachment to a meditation that makes us feel good, because when we find out that they're actually not enlightened, then it's like, oh, more work for me to do. Okay, so I think, why is that inserted in the sadhana? Precisely because we shouldn't think that enlightening all sentient beings is some quick thing, and that you lead sentient beings and whammo bango, they are a Buddha. I think as part of our bodhisattva in training practice, we have to deal with the disappointment of things not happening the way we would like. Sounds like something that ordinary samsaric beings go through. Except ordinary samsaric beings want sense pleasures and, things that bring them material possessions and power and reputation and such. And here in bodhisattvas are wanting the benefit of others. But still, it's the thing of having again and again and again to benefit sentient beings. That we don't just put out a little bit of energy to benefit them and then it's all done. So here it's very helpful, I think, to think about what the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have gone through in trying to get us to awakening. Yeah, I'm sure they did that visualization many times, and we were awakened in their visualization. And then their sadhana text said, but this really didn't happen, and why not? And, we were living proof of why not, because our minds are completely untamed. We heard the teachings, we didn't practice, or we practiced incorrectly, or we practiced correctly, but then we became quite arrogant and proud about it. Yeah, and so in any case, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have to work really hard And we keep resisting them, don't we? I mean, we think of ourselves as incredibly open, receptive Dharma students. Yeah? Isn't that kind of your self-image? I mean, compared to all these other people who don't have a precious human life, I am so receptive and primed and ready to go. I'm a real devotee of the Buddha. I have more refuge than anybody else, more devotion. I study very hard. I meditate very hard. I'm an extremely good practitioner. Yeah. And that's our image. But the Buddha looks at us and says, yeah, that. I taught them to do this, and they aren't doing that. They're doing something else. Or I taught them to do it this way, and they're doing it another way. Or I taught them, and it went in one ear and out the other. Or I taught them, and they made it into some big ego trip. So now here I am, having to work again with these same ridiculous sentient beings who don't follow instructions, and who criticize you when you're trying to help them, and complain that you're pushing them when you're trying to encourage them, and say that you're expecting too much from them when you're trying to point out their good qualities, So, if you think about it, why should it be easy for us to enlighten all the sentient beings when we're part of the headache for all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas? So I think it comes as a thing of, it hasn't happened yet. If we're, transforming ourselves, imagining ourselves being a Buddha, then we have to keep at it and keep benefiting sentient beings until they get it, and not just say, I got you enlightened in my last visualization, so, leave me alone now. Or in real life, I've taught you, and, you're just such a pain in the neck. Forget it, I'm going to go find some disciples that get enlightened the first time I teach them something. Okay, but the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas don't do that. Yeah, they stick with us. They don't abandon us. So similarly, we can't abandon others. So in this book, Following in the Buddha's Footsteps, page 163, there's a section that says, structuring the meditation session. Okay, because it's not enough just to choose an object of meditation and sit down. There's a whole process how you structure your session. So first of all, it refers us back to the 6 preliminary practices, which were described in Volume 2, The Foundation of Buddhist Practice. And this is how we start our meditation sessions. So especially in the morning, you clean the room, okay? You set up the holy objects. Third is you make offering to the object, to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Fourth is you take refuge in them. Fifth, you do the 7-limb prayer. And then 6th, make requests to your spiritual mentors in the form of the Buddha to inspire our mind so that we can gain some experience from the meditation that we're about to do. Okay? So we do those 6 preparations at the first session in the morning. And we do them after we sit in the 7-point position of Vairocana, which I talked about yesterday. Okay? And then we can, reinforce our bodhicitta motivation if we want to. And if you're going to focus on the image of the Buddha as your observed object, then you might want to do a few minutes of breathing meditation just to calm your mind. Okay? There, the breathing meditation is not used as an object with which to create serenity, you're doing it to calm your mind, so that when you visualize the Buddha, your mindfulness on the Buddha can be stronger and not so distracted. We do the 7-limb practice in order to purify and create merit. Okay, so that's something that's very important, and something that's not always so easy to understand. Yeah, what does it mean, purify? And how do you know you've purified? Okay, and I remember when I did Vajrasattva retreat as a beginner, yeah, and I kept on saying, what does it mean to purify? Yeah, what in the world does that mean? And how do you know you've purified? And people would just say, you know it. Just look at your own experience. And so what I discovered is, after doing that retreat, I went back and I was attending teachings by my teacher once again, and I could understand things that he was saying that I couldn't understand before the retreat. Okay? So the words were the same, but what those words meant to me was entirely different after I had done some purification. Okay? So I think that's one way that you can see if you've purified. Okay? Now, with any of these comments that I'm making, don't have the idea that now, every time I listen to any teaching, I'm going to understand it better. Or now, she said this and this happens, so now every single meditation session that's going to happen. No. Yeah, we are people who don't have realizations. Our minds, or at least I am, our minds are not steady and stable. So we're not going to have the same experience every meditation session. Okay, and we're not going to have the same experience every time we go to teachings or sit down to study. Yeah, because our mind is, it changes moods like that, and it changes clarity like that. It's clear one moment and then, fogged up the next. Okay, so, this is what makes it hard to kind of talk about the path, because people get the idea that as soon as you say something happens, that means it's never going to go away again. And that's not how things work. Okay, this is why it is called practice. Practice implies repetition. Yeah, doing it again and again and again. Our problem is that we are goal-oriented, not process-oriented. And this is a big problem for us. Yeah, we have our list of things we've got to do. Get enlightened is on there somewhere. And we want to just do the minimum we have to do, accomplish enlightenment, and then cross it off our list. Yeah. Got that one done. What's next? But spiritual transformation is not like that. Okay? And it is, although we always generate an aspiration to become Buddhas in the future, and we have a goal in mind, and that goal keeps our mind steadily going in one direction. Okay, that happens, but we are not fixated on, I've got to get to the goal ASAP before somebody else does. Yeah. Or I've got to get to it as soon as possible so I can get this whole thing over and done with. Cross it off my list. Okay? So it's so interesting how we bring our ordinary, goal-oriented achieving mind into Buddhist practice, and it doesn't work. And then we get frustrated and we get angry because a strategy that we thought worked in lay life doesn't work in Dharma life. Okay? And we keep bumping into this, not just in this respect with our meditation, yeah, but in so many things we do, yeah, where we have so many old patterns and habits that we don't even know that we have that come up. We don't see them as things our own mind created. When they come up, we think everything should go this way, and then we get upset when it doesn't. Okay? So one thing that people here, for example, have dealt with, and I think anybody, lay life, whatever you do, you have in your mind what you're going to do that day. Okay? I don't care, monastic, layperson. You have some kind of plan of what you're going to do today. Then, just as you're working through it, somebody comes along and says, oh, please do this. This is really important. You know, maybe you're a mom or a dad and you get a phone call. Your kid's sick, come to the school and pick them up. These are in the good old days when kids went to schools. You know, now I don't know. So instantly it's like, oh, this is inconvenient. I mean, you love your kids, you go pick your kid up, but this is so inconvenient. Or you're at work, yeah, and you have your day planned out, and then your supervisor comes in and says, oh, you know, there's something just happened with one client. We all need to meet immediately and fix this problem. And it's like, wait, I had other things planned to do today. I don't want to do that. Sound familiar? So we're all the time encountering this, where something comes up and somebody asks us to do something we didn't plan on doing, some circumstance comes up that we have to take care of, and our mind just, you know, it tightens. It goes, no! You know, I had my whole day planned out, and this wasn't in my plan. And it's driving me crazy when you change everything at the spur of the moment. And my teacher was a professional at doing this. Professional. And this was part of the training. As soon as there was a plan of what we were all going to do, we knew what wasn't going to happen. But we still had to be ready for the plan, because maybe it might happen. So it was a training in itself of, you know, how to learn to be more flexible and how to use your time even when there's a quick change of plans, so that you're not just hanging around wasting time waiting for something to happen. So when we're purifying, okay, we're learning to deal with some of those patterns of behavior, and watching our frustration and our anger when things turn on a dime, or people ask us to do things that are not in our God-given, what do you call it? Not my to-do list, my contract. You know, I said I would do da 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 as your husband, wife, employee, secretary, or boss, da da da. And now I've been doing da 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 very well, and you come in here and ask me to do d d d d d d d, and that isn't in my contract. That's not what I signed up to do. You said I was going to do da 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 da, and I've been doing that, and now you put d d d d in it, and I am not happy about this. So I throw my glasses. Okay? And then, of course, we're unhappy, so what do? Yeah, we don't whine. Yeah, when we're unhappy, like that, whining, we're beyond whining. Okay? Complaining, maybe a little bit, but we're actually beyond complaining. We are outraged. And we're going to let everybody know. So these are some of the things that we never knew we did, or patterns of behavior or patterns of thinking that we never knew we had. And then we constantly bump up against it. Yeah? Throughout our life, no matter who you are and what you're doing. Purification, yeah, when we can reduce the impact of some of the seeds of negative karma, yeah, it helps us to relax a little bit more, to understand the Dharma better, and you can see in your own experience, maybe check and see what other change you see in yourself. And again, it may not be huge, but His Holiness last night was talking about looking at little bits of change over time. And when you can do that over a period of time, then it becomes, you're looking at a big change that's happened in you. And then accumulating merit also, that we do before each session. That's also puzzling. You know, what in the world is merit? You know, we think of merit as gold stars on our homework paper. I don't know if kids have that now, you know, but remember the gold stars that you wanted to get on your homework paper? Yeah, and that was considered merit. So here, the word punya, in Sanskrit and Tibetan, or puna, it's punya in Sanskrit and puna in Pali. That word is not a very good translation. And I've tried a bunch of different words, but I can't find a good translation. Yeah? But it's some kind of build-up of inner good energy. That sounds pretty new agey. But it's, you know, it's the build-up of the, you know, lots of potential for the experience of good things in the future. So it's like you're building up goodness, you're building up, you know, what positive potential was one translation I tried. Okay, but so it's not something physical, and you're not going to get gold stars from the Buddha, okay? It's not like you're going to sit down on your cushion and there are 4 gold stars, you know, that the Buddha left overnight, you know, like the tooth fairy leaves you a present overnight, you know, that's not what happens. But it's a slow build-up where you feel like spiritually you have something to stand on, okay? I can't describe it much differently. Okay, but these practices of purification and accumulation of merit are quite important for readying our mind for meditation and for developing concentration. So again, it's not just, you know, I sit down, close my eyes, and boom. we prepare our mind, we take refuge so we know that we're following the Buddhist path. We're not confused about that. Yeah. We generate bodhicitta so we know why we're following that path. We're not confused about that either. Okay. Then we purify and accumulate merit to prepare the mind, to soften the mind, to open the mind. Okay. And then the last part is to make requests to our spiritual mentors for their blessings or inspiration, so that when we do the practice, some experience, however big or little, occurs. So the word that's translated as blessing or inspiration, jinlab, actually means more literally transform into magnificence. So when we're requesting the Buddha for this kind of thing, to inspire our mind or bless our mind to gain realizations, what we're wanting to do is we need help to transform our own mind into magnificence. But that's not something the Buddha gives us. Okay? So don't think of, I don't really know in theistic traditions what blessing means. I'm not sure about the meaning. But what it means here in Buddhism is it's a collaborative effort between the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and spiritual mentors to, nudge us and encourage us and tell us we can do it. Okay, so energy coming from them. And the other part of the bargain is our effort. Okay? So it's this combined thing of our putting forth effort, our relying and developing deep faith in the objects of refuge. And because of that, then the mind being uplifted so that when we meditate, something happens. Now, what happens? Well, we talked about that a little bit yesterday, and it's not about something whammo, fantastic, with, like I said, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. It's not like that. Yeah, and it's not something to go tell all your friends about. But it's maybe you understand something a little bit clearer. Or maybe one word in the text you're reading that you've read 100 times goes like that. Oh, that's what it means. That's what the idea here is. Or maybe, something gets clear about, oh, that's my old way of thinking that I've never questioned. Now I see how it's messing things up and I can change it. So it's just a bit of a deeper understanding. And over time, it accumulates. Okay? So having requests the inspiration, the blessing, then the Buddha comes to the top of our head, faces the same way as we do. Or sometimes you can dissolve the Buddha into you. And then when you're using the image of the Buddha as your object for developing serenity, then in the space in front of you, you imagine the Buddha with a golden body made of light. So it doesn't need to be really golden. It just has like a golden kind of hue. Because you also want to think of the Buddha you're imagining as a living being, not as a statue or a thangka. Okay? but as a living being who, there's something going on that you can relate to. So as I described before, kind of try about this big. You may naturally have it smaller, that's okay, but don't make it too small and don't make it too large. And I can't give you measurements for what too small and too large are. Might as well cut that question out. Okay, and so you go over the details, and of what the face looks like, the different features of the face, his torso, the position of his hands, position of his legs. He's sitting on a throne and a lotus and a sun and moon seat. And so you go over all the details, and then you fix your mind on the whole thing, okay? At the beginning, even when you start, it's not going to be super clear. But whatever it is, be satisfied with that, okay? And work with that, even if it's just some kind of golden blob or whatever that's not blob like an amoeba, but, in the shape of a Buddha, but you don't see everything really clearly. But also, don't expect yourself to see it in the same way as you see things with your visual consciousness, because here you're working with your mental consciousness. Okay, so seeing things occurs in a different way. Mm-hmm. If the image starts to fade, then go over the details again. If one part of the image becomes very vivid, like maybe the face becomes vivid or the eyes become vivid, then you can focus just on them for a while, until maybe that loses some energy, and then go back to the whole form. Okay? And then they say that for beginners, you have a session, you do various sessions, often 4 larger sessions during the day. But within each session, you have many mini sessions. So when you're a beginner, your mini sessions are maybe 5 minutes long, not too long, because you don't want to meditate so long that your mind gets exhausted and then you get angry and you get restless, and as a result, you never want to come back to your meditation cushion again. So you don't want to push yourself to meditate longer than you can. So they just say with the mini session, just do 5 minutes. You can set something for 5 minutes, or you can mentally time it. It doesn't need to be exact. And then after 5 minutes, you can relax your meditation position, open your eyes if you want to, stretch your leg, but you don't stand up. And you just take that little mini break for 30 seconds, 1 minute, not very long. Just enough to kind of have a change of scenery, so to speak. And then you come back and you renew your session, going over the details of the Buddha's body, fixating on it, if it fades, going through the details again. And you do that for 5 more minutes. And then, you take another little break, maybe open your eyes, look around the room, 30 seconds, a minute, then you lower your eyes again, and you begin the meditation again. And so you do a number of these mini sessions, let's say for an hour and a half, whatever, and then you take a longer break, and then you come back for another big session. So what you really have to learn here, how to take care of your mind and how to keep your mind balanced. Because sometimes you have really good meditation sessions that you label really good. Yeah? And it's like, oh, I was so calm and the image was clear and this is fantastic. And so I'm just going to keep at it. I'm going to, I know I'm only supposed to do 5 minutes, but I'm going to sit here for, an hour or 2 hours, as long as, it goes. So 2 hours, I'm going to meditate. And then, after half an hour, because you're a baby beginner, your mind is restless. But you say to yourself, oh, I said I was going to do 2 hours. I'm not getting up. And then you sit there and you, what's it called? You grit your teeth and do it. And that doesn't work very well. So there's this balance between nudging ourselves when we are lazy and when we're making excuses for ourselves, when we just don't feel like doing it. There's a balance between that and, nudging ourselves in a good way and pushing ourselves. Yeah. If we push ourselves, we're going to start disliking our meditation sessions, okay? Because we're like, I've got to get there and I've got to do this good session and, so-and-so's sitting so long, I better be able to sit that long too. So that kind of attitude of pushing our mind does not work very well. Our tendency is to say, okay, I'm not going to push. And then we hear, oh, be kind to yourself. Yeah, have compassion for yourself. Wow, that sounds great. Compassion for myself. And I'm not supposed to push. So I don't really feel like doing this meditation session this morning. I'd much rather read a novel. And after I read the novel, then I'll want to meditate. So I'm going to be kind to myself and read the novel and relax and then go do my practice a little bit later. Okay? That's called self-indulgence. Okay? So you see, this is the middle way that we have so much difficulty finding whatever we do. Yeah, between pushing ourselves and being self-indulgent in the name of having compassion for ourselves, and pushing ourselves in the name of being a success. And instead, bringing both of those in a bit to nudging ourselves gently when we know we can do something and we're just lazy, yeah, and resting when we need to because, our body is not feeling well or whatever. We completed something and we just need a little break, okay? So learning how to balance our mind out without these extremes. And this relates not only to our meditation practice, but just our life in general and how we approach practice in general. Yeah? And so some people start out, I'm so enthusiastic about the Dharma, they buy every book, and then they read and read and read, cramming more and more information into themselves. And now I know the 3 this and the 4 this and the 5 this and the 6 this and 7 this and 8 this. And I've read this book and this book and this book and this book, and they're all really long. And I've memorized all the lists, and this is really good, and I'm really getting somewhere. And I love the Dharma. And then at a certain point you go, I haven't changed very much at all. I'm just as impatient. I'm just as nasty to people. What's happening? Yeah, and so then you stop. Or you got distracted. Yeah. So this is what often happens. Some people, when they're having problems in their life, and there's some problems or suffering, they have a lot of motivation to practice. But as soon as the problem goes away, so does the motivation to practice. Other people practice when everything is going really, really well, but as soon as they have a problem, they stop practicing. And it's so interesting to watch, and on again, off again, on again, off again. Yeah, oh, I'm sick, I'm going to practice the Dharma, I better accumulate some merit, do something good, so you do it. Yeah, fine. Then I feel better. Okay, now I can stop. I feel better. Then your relationship, when your relationship's going well, this is fantastic. I have this great relationship. I don't need to practice the Dharma. I'm over the moon in love. And then the relationship breaks up, and it's like, and those people practice the Dharma when they're very happy. Okay? So some of the people don't practice the Dharma when they're happy. I have my samsaric happiness. I don't need to practice the Dharma. Other people, when they're happy and things are going well, yeah, Dharma practice is really easy. Then, as soon as their relationship breaks up, it's like, I don't want to practice Dharma anymore. I'm grieving, I'm sad, I'm depressed, I'm disappointed. Yeah, I have to sign up for online dating. Okay? So it's interesting to watch how our mind is. And in that regard, to learn to practice in a more consistent way and, make slow but consistent practice, rather than you read all the books and then you drop it because, you haven't been paying any attention to your mind. You've just been stuffing yourself with information, which is very, very tempting at the beginning. Yeah, when I started out, you people have much more to read now at the beginning. When I started out, there was Alexandra David Neal, Lama Govinda, and Lobsang Rampa. Yeah. And, Alexandra David Neal and Lobsang Rampa were telling all these stories about fantastic, creative, visualizations and this and that and magical things. And then you find out later, Lobsang Rampa was actually an Irish plumber and he made the whole thing up. But Alexandra David Neal, she was for real, but she went around collecting all these stories. And then Lama Govinda, I could never quite relate to. And then my teacher had this book called The Wish-Fulfilling Golden Sun. Some stenograph. Remember the old stenciled things? So a stenciled book like that, kind of somehow the binding taped together. Translation was not so good, and sometimes the translation terms really gave us a lot of wrong ideas. And some of the people, sometimes, even now, people are using those same translation terms because that's what you learned at the beginning, but they really give the wrong idea. So that was the only one that I could kind of relate to. But then there's a lot of talk in there about the hell realms and this kind of stuff that I couldn't relate to very much. Anyway, you people have much more stuff to read. Yeah, so you have good information you can stuff in your mind now, not Lobsang Rampa kind of stuff. Yeah. Because I used to read these books and, because I had gone to one course that lasted 3 weeks. I came back, I was all excited, I was gonna, And like what Lobsang Rampa was saying was so different than what my teachers were saying. It's like, what's going on here? Okay. So you sit down to do your practice, right? You have all the instructions. You're trying to practice the instructions. And what happens? Okay, the 5 hindrances come. Okay, that's chapter 7 in the book. You just turn one page, and there are the 5 hindrances. Okay, so we're so enthusiastic. We're going to become Buddhas by next Wednesday and develop, samadhi by Monday and realize emptiness by Tuesday and, get there. And then the 5 hindrances come. First one, and this is, and it's listed first for a reason, sensual desire, attachment to sense pleasure. Okay, I want to see beautiful things, hear beautiful sounds, smell nice things, taste good food, have fantastic tactile sensations, and that's what comes up in the middle of your meditation. All the craving for that. And you never realized that you had such creative writing capacities, because all of a sudden in your meditation you are creatively writing a story of, you meet Mr. or Ms. Buddha boy or Buddha girl, and there you are on the beach and, eating chocolate, and the sun is the right temperature, and the sand is soft and luxurious. And then, I'll leave the rest to your imagination because I'm a nun. So, there goes sensual desire off and running in the middle of our meditation on the Buddha. And sometimes we recognize it right away, and sometimes we don't recognize it for half an hour, because it's really good. And who says we can't visualize? When we are involved in our sensual desire fantasy, our visualization is crystal clear. Not only visualization in terms of what we see, but what we feel, what we hear, what we taste, what we smell. We can feel the whole thing in our meditation through imagination. Okay, so that comes up. I'm just going over them briefly now. We'll come back and go into more depth. Okay, then, so that becomes a good meditation because your distraction made you feel good. Actually, that's not a meditation session at all. That's a distraction session. Okay, but then the next time you sit, so you sit down to practice in another session, or sometimes it's even the same session, because the mind can change like this. And then all of a sudden, there's the Buddha, and there's these people who harmed you. Yeah, the people who abused you when you were a kid, the people who bullied you on the playground, the people who made fun of you, the adults who teased you, the teachers who never gave you credit for what you did, the times when you deserved that basketball medal and they gave it to somebody else. And then as an adult, the people who criticize you and the people who got the promotion instead of you, even though when you do a better job, and all those people who broke up with you, who you used to love, but you can't stand now, even because you're so mad that they broke up with you that you want them to come back. Isn't that interesting? When somebody breaks up with you, you're mad at them because you want them to come back, because you don't want to break up. They want to break up. that interesting? We're mad at the person that we want to come back. Usually we're mad at somebody because we want them to go away. So I find that one quite interesting. Is it true, isn't it? Yeah? Okay. And, and then there you are in your meditation, and you're getting so mad. And it's like, I've got to stand up for myself. My whole life I've been a wimp. I need to stand up for myself. And the next time, the Donald Trump, who was my employer, makes a misogynistic comment, I am going to speak up for the benefit of all women and blast him out of this office. And you're mad and you're revved up and you're ready to get off your meditation seat and, go to work so you can meet that Trump-like employer of yours and put him in his place. Okay? Oh, you look so peaceful. Or, whoever it is we're mad at. You're mad at your mom, your dad, your kids. Who else? I mean, there's so many people. There's a whole universe full of sentient beings. Pick whoever you want to be mad at. And the anger will come. And the malice will come. And we will, this time, create the movie. Yeah, we're going to write another creative writing drama. Yeah. About how we're going to get even, and about rerunning through our mind, before we get to the part of how to get even, rerunning through our mind again and again all those horrible things that people said and did to us. And I remember in that first Vajrasattva retreat I did, I discovered that I was enraged with my second grade teacher, Mrs. Dukaman, because she wouldn't let me be in the class play. The injustice of it. I have no idea why she wouldn't let me be in the class play. But I was an outstanding student, very creative, extremely talented in drama, and she didn't let me be in the class play. And life is so unfair. Yeah. And then when I got to high school, Mr. Boulderson, my geography teacher, oh my God, what he did to me. I got so mad at this guy. He was so condescending that I stomped out of his office and I went to the counselor in the school. I stopped out of his classroom and went to the office of the counselor and said, I am not going back in his classroom anymore. He is incompetent. Yeah. Because I was reading Ayn Rand at that time. Yeah. And he was definitely not, what was it, Galt? Charles Galt? Somebody Galt, huh? John Galt, yeah. So he wasn't John Galt. He was one of these lazy people that expects everybody else to do things for him. And I was not going to go along with that. Okay. But I was a good girl, Yeah, when you're good girls, you dream about stomping out and going into the office and saying, I am not going back into that incompetent man's classroom again. But when you're a good girl, you can't do that. Yeah? So you're supposed to be mad in a very sweet way. Okay, you know what I mean. Yeah? So it presents a certain amount of inner conflict, but it also restrains you from following a lot of bad instincts. But you can do a whole meditation session on that. Yeah. Oh, and I went from 2nd grade to 9th grade. I didn't tell you about my 6th grade teacher. Again, disaster, you know. And then all these other things that happened in my childhood that were just, you know. Yeah, and then the things that happened just today. Yeah. When we were doing this Vajrasattva retreat at Tushita in Dharamsala, the cook would alternate breakfast. Yeah? And we had a rule, Lama Yeshe had a rule, that if you left your meditation session in the middle to go pee-pee, you did not come back and you could not count any of the mantra you said in that session. And counting mantra was of utmost importance, because you had 100,000 plus 11,000 plus, 10% of that and 10% of that. Anyway, so you didn't want to lose any mantra. But the cook, sometimes we had toast for breakfast, sometimes we had oatmeal, sometimes we had suji. Suji, or sabji, no, sabji is vegetable. Suji is a kind of very thin porridge, okay, with lots of water and a little bit of kind of powdery stuff. So you have that for breakfast. You go pee-pee before the session, because Lama told us all to do that. And then you sit down in your session, and because your breakfast was mostly water, you know what happened. So we were a group retreat of, maybe 15, 16, 18 people. So on the days when we had suji and everybody had to get up and go pee-pee in the middle of sessions, which meant we lost our mantra, we were furious. Yeah. Of course, I was a nice girl, so I didn't get so furious outside. But my co-retreatants, the guys, because guys are allowed to get furious. Yeah. Yeah. Venerable Sanghya Kadra was one of the retreat leaders at that time. She's a good girl too, so we couldn't count on her doing anything. She's even gooder than I am. I'm kind of obnoxious and uncouth compared to her. Anyway, the other retreat leader was a guy named Venerable Steve. And, so the guys went to Steve, and Steve went to the director of the retreat center, Losang Nima, and gave Losang Nima a piece of his mind about breakfast, And this was after, we spent, I don't know how many sessions meditating on suji. Okay, and it didn't really change because, if you didn't have suji, it just meant you had another thing of oatmeal. And when you have a 3-month retreat and you're eating the same thing all the time, and you're in India where there isn't a lot of variety of food anyway, yeah, then your sensual desire gets very frustrated. And when it gets frustrated, your malice arises. Okay? So these two hindrances, they are hand in hand. Okay? You crave for your sensual desire. As soon as you don't get it, the malice comes and you're angry and upset. Okay? Then, the next hindrance, lethargy and sleepiness. I take refuge until I am awakened. And then, so we finally get through the prayers, and then we're concentrating on the Buddha, and it's like, and the person next to you is going, shut up. If you're going to yawn softly. And you're really trying so hard. Yeah. There's the Buddha. Oh, the Buddha looks so good. Oh, if I open my eyes, then I'll get rid of this drowsiness. So you open your eyes and, oh, she's looking at me. And he's looking around the room. And most of the people in this room have their eyes open. But I'm not supposed to show that my eyes are open. So I notice theirs are. They're naughty, but they're not going to catch me with my eyes open. Okay. So I've sat so many retreats. Okay, so lethargy and sleepiness. Or you're concentrating and, you're not totally asleep, but you're just relaxing your meditation position a little. Oh yeah, there's the Buddha. He looks a lot like my boyfriend. Okay, so lethargy and sleepiness. Then, next one, restlessness and regret. So restlessness and regret, they seem very different, but they're put together as one because they're very similar in the sense that you feel or you think you should be doing something other than what you're doing. So when you're restless, it's like, I gotta go check my phone, or I've got to check my email, but nobody does email except me anymore. Or I've got to do this, I've got to do that, and you're restless, and so you have to go check up on this and check up on that, and it's like, oh, maybe I'm on cooking rota today, I better go check. That's a good excuse to get out of my session. Okay, so the restless mind that wants to be doing something else. The mind with regret or remorse is you did something, but you regret having done it. Yeah, so maybe you did something non-virtuous and it's coming up like crazy in your session and you just feel so bad for what you've done, okay? And you get, instead of like staying with the regret and going into the four opponent powers, you start to feel kind of remorse and guilt and heavy and self-incriminating, recriminating, yeah. Anyway, some kind of incriminating. So you feel that and you think, I should make amends, I should do something. Or you did something virtuous and then you think, oh no, I made a big offering, now I can't go to the movies, I can't go on holiday. Yeah. Or, oh, I was kind to that person, but now I know they're going to take advantage of me, instead of rejoicing in your own kindness, regretting it. Okay, so restlessness and regret come up. And then the fifth one, deluded doubt. Okay, so there's different kinds of doubt. Doubt is always like a two-pointed needle, okay? You can do this or you can do that. You can believe this or you can believe that, okay? Can you sew with a two-pointed needle? No. In our meditation practice, we cannot advance if our mind is like a two-pointed needle. In our life, we can't advance if our mind is like a two-pointed needle, okay? It's like, I'm going to ordain. No, I don't want to. Oh, maybe I should. No, it doesn't sound like such a good idea. Oh, but it could be good. Well, no, what are you talking about? Stop that. Okay? And so your mind is like back and forth about that. Or the woman I told you about, should I marry this guy? I don't know. maybe I should marry that one instead. Yeah, but he has those problems, so this guy looks better in that aspect, so maybe I should marry him, but in this other aspect, he's not so good, so maybe I should do that. Okay? So in our life, in our practice, we can't come to a conclusion, you know? We're like, like a teeter-totter. Yeah, we're like a teeter-totter. So, there's a difference between doubt and curiosity. Curiosity, you want to understand. You don't understand. You have lots of questions and lots of doubts. But they're because you're studying and because you really want to understand. That's curiosity. That is not deluded doubt. Okay. Deluded doubt, well, before we get to deluded doubt. Doubt in general has three kinds. Doubt inclined towards the right conclusion, doubt that's right in the middle of the fence, and doubt that's inclined towards the wrong conclusion. Okay? So the first one would be, yeah, I think that things are empty of inherent existence, but I'm not really sure. The middle kind of doubt is, well, maybe they are inherently existent, maybe they aren't. I'm not sure. And the deluded doubt, which is inclined towards the negative one, is I really don't think that they're empty. I think they've got to be inherently existent. Okay? So that deluded doubt can fall on anything. And so especially if you're trying to generate serenity, then you start doubting, oh, the instructions I received, are they the correct instructions? Maybe my teacher made a mistake, or maybe I misunderstood, or maybe I should change objects of meditation because I've been doing this one for a while and nothing seems to be happening, so is that the right meditation object, or maybe I should really change it? Or how long should my sessions be? And so the mind continually in this state of, it's quite restless, quite agitated, actually, because we can't really decide anything. Yeah, we're doubting everything, and especially the deluded doubt, which is inclined towards the wrong conclusion. That one is listed here specifically because it's the one that really takes us away from the path. Okay? Doubt inclined towards the right conclusion, that's doubt, but at least it's towards the right conclusion. And compared to having a wrong view, that kind of doubt is progress. Okay? So that is a quick introduction to the 5 hindrances. There are some really beautiful quotes in one of Nagarjuna's text that is found in the Chinese tradition. Yeah, it's not found in the Tibetan tradition, but it's found in the Chinese tradition. And so I want to read you some of those quotes because the way Nagarjuna expresses some of these hindrances, the analogies, it really gives us a good feeling. Okay? So the one for sensual desire, Nagarjuna says, desire is the net of the demons and an entangling web from which it is difficult to escape. So you think about this, a desire is like that, isn't it? This is talking about the attachment, sticky, gooey kind of desire. Desire constitutes a burning heat which dries up all the bliss, because we're burning to get what we want. Desire, like drawing close to a fiery pit, is extremely fearsome, but it looks good. You're cold and the fiery pit is going to warm you up, but It's dangerous. Just like letting our mind getting overwhelmed by sensual desire. It's really very dangerous. It is like cornering a venomous snake, like an enemy invader brandishing a knife, like swallowing molten copper, like a lion blocking one's path. So he's talking about this is the function of sensual desire. It's like a lion blocking our path, an enemy brandishing a knife. Okay, so these are very good images that help us see sensory desire or sense desire from different perspectives. All desires are just like this and are worthy of being feared. Desires cause people to undergo torment and suffering. Unfortunately, we don't always see sensual desire as like this. Nagarjuna is trying to get us to see sensual desire for what it is. But ordinary beings with lots of sensual desire and, not much understanding of the Dharma, or maybe they don't have any understanding of the Dharma, we think that sensual desire is the be-all and end-all of happiness. Yeah, what more could you want than more and more worldly pleasure, which includes not just pleasure of the senses, but other things. I mean, there's still pleasures of the senses, but they come around in a different way, like hearing praise. Okay, that's one of the 8 worldly concerns, but to have the delight of hearing praise involves our ear consciousness, our hearing consciousness, okay? Or I want to have a good reputation. I want lots of people to talk about me positively behind my back. Yeah, again, that involves sensual desire, because we want to either hear of what people are saying about us, how wonderful we are, or we want to read written accounts of it, something like that. Okay? So don't think that it means like just instant sensory gratification. It's these other societal things, other kinds of ego perks. Those people who are attached to desire are like convicts in a prison, entrapped by their own mind, like a deer caught in a corral trap. That's sad, especially when you think of our deer. But, the deer can't do anything. Like birds ensnared in a net, like fish who have swallowed a hook. Yeah, we bought into the illusion. We want that worldly pleasure. Yeah, we've thrown reason to the wind, and we are going to do everything we can to satisfy our desires. Like a crow in the midst of a band of owls, dangerous for the crow. Desires are like blind men approaching an abyss. An abyss. Maybe an abyss, too. Okay. I don't know, is it worse if you're blind to approach an abyss or an abyss? Like a fly caught in hot oil. Like a peaceful man caught up in military combat. Like one who had entered a river of boiling brine. Like one who licks a honey-smeared blade. In fact, that last one is how they often describe attachment to worldly things. It's like licking honey off a razor blade. It looks good, it tastes good, and you cut your tongue and it bleeds. It's not good in the end. Okay? So that's how Nagarjuna is trying to wake us up to what sensual desire is and how our mind gets caught up in it and completely overwhelmed, completely. Another analogy would be, there's a huge wave and you are in front and it is pushing and pushing and pushing, and there's no way you can get off the wave. Your mind is totally overwhelmed by attachment, being push, 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 and finally the wave crashes and you are under water fighting to find some air. So that would be another one.
Some teachers, like Alan Wallace, say that before Vipassana, you first need to achieve shamatha. So your mind has that peace of mind needed to cultivate wisdom. What do you think?
Okay, I would have to see in what context Alex is talking about this. If he's talking about it in terms of how shamatha and vipassana are practiced in the Pali tradition, which is what I suspect he's doing, there are a number of different ways to do that. Yeah, in the Pali Canon, there's one sutra that talks about it. That some people say develop serenity and then insight. Other people say develop some insight and then serenity. Other people say develop them at the same time. And then there was also one case of somebody who had some kind of extraordinary experience where it kind of all pulled together. Yeah. But, if you have a question about what Alan says, best to ask Alan. And since I don't teach that kind of Vipassana meditation, because Vipassana means insight, okay? And every Buddhist tradition has the practice of insight, but how you practice it is different. And even within the Theravada tradition, how insight is practiced is different according to the different teachers that you go to, and how you practice it in the Tibetan tradition is different yet again, and how you practice it in the Chinese tradition or the Zen tradition, or in, the Pure Land tradition. It's, many different methods, okay?
Okay, in practice, there's a doubt which arises. How could I lead all these beings in practice, prostration, or meditation? I don't have the wisdom or skills. How can I work with this, since it is indeed true that I am not realized to be able to lead all sentient beings?
Okay, you're pretending, okay? Pretending is something we've been doing since we've been kids. You play dress up wearing your parents' clothes, yeah? Or you dress up according to what kind of occupation you think you want to have when you're a grown-up, yeah? And so we pretend. We imagine, when you're looking for a job or you have a few job offers, you imagine what it would be like in working for each company, and that helps you, kind of figure it out. So imagination is, trying things on. Imagining is quite common, yeah? So here, we're using our imagination in a very skillful, beneficial way, because our usual self-image is, I can't do it, it's too hard. Enlighten all sentient beings, totally unrealistic. Even the Buddha can't do that. So why should I say I'm going to enlighten all the sentient beings? Anyway, becoming enlightened it's too high. It's too high a goal. I read those things about Buddhas. I'm nowhere near that. I can't do that. And anyway, the path is too hard. You have to give up your body to tigresses. Yeah. You have to go and make friends with all sorts of demons and, play politics with kings. And it's like, I don't practice this kind of path. Or you have to go to a cave like Milarepa, and sit on your tush and get calluses on your tush and eat nettles for how many years? This path is too hard, okay? And anyway, I'm just little old me. I can't do very much right anyway. Everything I try, I botch up. I'm just not qualified. So, you're talking about me benefiting sentient beings? I mean, I'm a disaster myself. I can't benefit anybody. Yeah. And then we have low self-esteem. Okay. So this way of thinking, is any of it true? That I'm unqualified, the path is too difficult, the goal is too high? None of it is realistic. It's our mind making up opinions and stories. Okay? So we have to realize when we are making up an unrealistic opinion or holding an unrealistic view or making up a ridiculous story. And our mind does make these things up a lot. Okay? So don't tell yourself you can't do it. Yeah, if the Buddha had told himself, I can't do it, this whole thing is too hard, it's unrealistic, where would the rest of us be? He wouldn't have even tried. But the Buddha didn't succumb to that kind of self-abnegating view. And he went ahead and said, okay, I'm going to try anyway. And he became a Buddha. And we also have to know when we're making the bodhisattva aspirations, some of them, well, like this one, I'm going to enlighten all sentient beings. It sounds ridiculous, yeah? But the thing is, to develop very strong compassion, we have to think in that way, like, if it were possible, I would stay in samsara to enlighten every single sentient being. That's how strong I want my compassion to be, so that I would stay in samsara to do that for the benefit of each and every sentient being. Even though you don't say to yourself, even though that's not going to happen. You say to yourself, I want to develop compassion that is strong enough so that I have that energy to do that. Yeah. So making the bodhisattva aspirations are ways to increase our compassion and the intensity, the force of our compassion, and our joyous effort in practice. Yeah, these aspirations expand our mind to like, wow, just imagine being able to do that. It's incredible. I can't believe it. But it sounds so wonderful. I want to imagine it anyway. And then I'll do as much as I possibly can, given the situation. Okay, so we're going to close for now.